Recording in progress.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Donna Chow, and I am your host and your moderator for today's class. eLotus is your leading provider of continuing education for acupuncturists. Today's webinar is Acupuncture Point Combinations for the 8 Extraordinary Vessels with the 5 Spirits, Part 2, presented by David Hartman. Today's webinar will be from 9 to 6 p.m. Pacific time, and we'll have 4 breaks, and lunch will be from about 1 to 2 p.m. For lecture notes, you can download them directly from the Blue Course Access page in your eLotus account. And to participate in the chat room today, we do ask that you set your chat preference to everyone so that everyone can see what you're typing and be part of the conversation. So be sure to do that right now. Set your chat to everyone. If you have any questions for David about the course content or topic, you can enter your question directly into the Q&A box. That way we keep things organized for him so you can see your questions. And finally, the quiz and the video replay. I will be emailing you guys tomorrow when they are both ready. So please look out for an email from me tomorrow. All right, guys. So today, David Hartman is our speaker, and David has been a licensed Chinese medicine practitioner in Brisbane, Australia since 1997. He is well known for his acupuncture point combinations, for which he has written a textbook. David has previously taught courses here at eLotus on mental health, the 5 elements, the 5 spirits, and numerology. If you're looking for his previous courses, they are available as CEU distant learning videos. And the best way to watch them all, and for free, is to become a Gold Pass member. In a moment, I'll share more information on how to do that by sharing a link with you in the chat room. It is an honor here to have David join us here today. And he's actually in Australia doing the webinar with us. So we thank you so much for waking up super early to teach today's class. So without further ado, David, will you please take over and share your PowerPoint?
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Elotus, and all the crew in the background there. Yeah, looking forward to another fascinating day. In particular, the merging of the concepts of the 8 extras with the 5 spirits, because it's something that I've been wanting to do for a number of years and haven't really had much of an opportunity to really immerse myself in that world. So other than the Rothenburg Congress from earlier in the year in Germany, this is kind of the first time I've ever really looked at how they fit together. So that's been a really fascinating journey. And so that for me is what's exciting about today, is being able to put these amazing concepts together. So obviously before we get to that process, we need to work our way through the 5 spirits. Yesterday we went through the 8 extraordinary vessels. Today the first bit is the 5 spirits, and then when we first put them together, what'll happen is that you'll actually we'll go through some motions first, and merging of the 8 extraordinary vessels and the 5 spirits, and then we'll get into splitting each spirit up one at a time, looking at their excesses, deficiencies, and what 8 extraordinary vessels can be used, and lots of acupuncture point combinations throughout as well. Okay. So in terms of an original sort of quote on the 5 spirits from the Yellow Emperor Classic, Huang Di said, in the human body, there are the Zhang organs of the liver, heart, spleen, lung, and kidneys. The qi of the 5 Zhang organs forms the 5 spirits and gives rise to the 5 emotions. The spirit of the heart is known as the Shen, which rules mental and creative functions. The spirit of the liver, the Hun, rules the nervous system and gives rise to extrasensory perception. The spirit of the spleen, of Yi, rules logic or reasoning power. The spirit of the lungs, or Po, rules the animalistic instincts, physical strength and stamina. The spirit of the kidneys, the Ji, rules the will, drive, ambition, and spiritual instinct. So that's a good, I guess, little original kind of summary of the 5 spirits, of which, as I said, we're going to work our way through. So we're going to do a little Aussie quiz again, as we have in the previous days. So in the chat room, if you're unfamiliar with this, if you could put down what you think each of the answers are. We're just going to do them one at a time. So what do you think in Australia if we say to someone, have a go, you mug? What do you think we're saying? Try it out if you think you can. Give it a try. Where is my mug? I've got a mug here. Is that the mug? Have at it. Let's do this. Yeah. Have a go, yeah. What's a mug? Got the first bit right. Radio silence. Have you got your coffee? I've got my coffee this morning, thanks, Stella. That's not what this is, though. Mug face. Have a go at it. Yeah, like it's kind of goofball face. It's a mug is kind of one of these weird ones where it's a term of endearment if it's a mate. So it's, you know, have a go, mate. You know, come on, get into it. Have a go. Have a crack. As for, yeah, someone I saw there, because I finished all of the slides and the quizzes at the last minute, eLotus only just got them in the last 24, 48 hours. So the delay on their end is because of what happened at my end. So I apologize to eLotus countless times already. So I apologize to you as well. That's why all the information has not arrived as quickly as some of you might have liked. But anyway, it's really good information. So I guess that's the thing. It could have been a half-assed attempt and been pretty poor slides and been given to you sooner, or better quality slides that come later. I don't know what's better. I should probably organize myself better. Anyway, back to this. A mug can be referred to as a face as well. Next one, where is Backer Burke? Any ideas? The boonies. Not the back of the yard. No, lots of no ideas. Okay. Was it yesterday we did whoop whoop? Yeah. So one of you said it already. I'm assuming the boonies is the outback. We're out the middle of nowhere. So Burke is a town in the middle of bugger all in Australia, and so it's out the back of that. It's in the middle of nowhere. Australia is very large, and there's a large chunk of it that really doesn't have many people living in it at all, and that's where that is. All right, what's Burko? A cooler? No. Like berserk? Australian English is getting more challenging. Going berserk. Excuse me. A coat, maybe. That's not. Some of you have said it already. So Burko's berserk. Thank you. I like you that you're all happy to put down possible answers. Thank you. What about? Sorry, my throat this morning. I didn't have dairy. What's a bludger? Goof up? Bat? No. Not a bat. Lazy person? Not a bad guy, not an obstacle. Paper towel. Goodness, some of the answers. Cigar? Maybe some of these things are. Homeless? No. One of you have said it already. I just waited to see if someone else, what your answers were. So a bludger is kind of like a lazy person. Have a go, you bludger. You know, get into it, that sort of thing. Scrounges? I'm not sure what that is. I'm not even sure if I'm saying it right. All right, anyway, next one. What's a bogan? There's some funny words, isn't it? Bludger, bogan, Burko. No, not a drum, sled. Any ideas? Bad guy? No. We keep trying the bad guy option. Oh, there we go. Edith Sonnet. 20 Aussie slang words you need to know. We've done across, what is this now? 6 days. I've started early in the morning, and so I think we've done about 60 different Aussie slang terms. A bogan is like someone that you consider to be under your station, low status. So you could essentially call anyone a bogan that you felt was at a lower level to you, a lower standard. So even if you were actually what would be considered at a low standard, you could still probably find a bogan that would be at a lower station to you. What are you when you are chockers? Shocked? Surprised? No. Tired? Drunk? No. Out of luck. I love these possible answers. No, not thirsty. I mean, you wouldn't be thirsty. Yeah, like bloated, you're full. You're completely full. Chockers is couldn't fit another thing in. You know, you've eaten too much at the buffet. Again, we have lots of words for describing the same thing. What about, what are you doing when you chuck a Yui? I'm just going to chuck a Yui. There we go. Turn around. Yeah. U-turn. Very good. Very good. What about, what are you doing when you chuck a wobbly? We hang a Louis. Chuck a wobbly. We got the chuck a Yui, okay. Chuck a wobbly messed up. No. Bad throw. Left turn. No. Hit an animal with your car. I hope not. You might chuck a wobbly if you did, but no, when you chuck a wobbly, it's you throw a fit, you crack it, you scream, swear, yeah. All right, thank you. So yeah, you basically crack it, you lose it, you maybe get angry for a minute. What are dish lickers? Hungry people? I'm sure, possibly, yeah. Dogs, sponges, dish lickers. Yeah, I could see that. Good eaters. It's actually a few things. When I was looking it up to see if it could mean anything else, it actually did mean more than a dog, yeah. So dish lickers we often refer to as greyhounds, but you can also refer to dish lickers as being people that clean dishes in kitchens in restaurants, of which I actually was one of them for a while, but we didn't refer to ourselves as dish lickers back then. Dish pigs. We were called dish pigs. Or people called us dish pigs. So yeah, dish lickers are greyhounds or dogs. What are cozies? Any idea? Friends you view as families? A family? No. Beers? No. Excuses? No. Cousins? Oh goodness, I love it. No, that's not right either. Gloves, costume, kind of a costume. Donut. A thermal wrap for your aluminium drink. I love it. No. Swimming costume. There we go. Cozies are, yeah, putting your swimmers on, which could be your budgie smugglers or your Speedos or your whatever. Thank you. And then the last one before we get into the serious stuff. What is it when you devo? Devoted? No. I can see why you went there. Trendy, crazy? No. One of you have said it there. Devoed is devastated. I'm devoed. So fingers crossed. Well, not fingers crossed. I don't know what the right answer is. To some degree, I know that I will be devastated to some degree when we're finished today, because it's a series of workshops that I've put a lot of effort into. And even though I am getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning to do them, I'm proud with what I've produced and I'm getting good feedback from people. And so even though there'll be a sense of relief to have done it, I'll be devoed. So I'm hopeful in some respects that you are devoed as well, as much as it's nice to move on in life and live in the present moment. Yeah. So thank you very much, everyone. And let's get into it. So this first part, before the first break, we'll look at the history of the 5 spirits quickly, and then look at the Shen. And then we'll move on into the Hun and the Po. I put them together. There's no sequence. Like if you look at, say, the 5 spirits from the 5 element perspective on, say, the Shang cycle, you would probably go wood, fire, earth, metal, water. I've done that in the past, and I felt like there was this need to have to backtrack or look to compare across spirits. So I like to put the Shen first now, because putting the Shen first, it's the overriding spirit of all of them. So if we lay the platform first, and then if we do the Hun, I want to do the Po at the same time, because there's a similarity because of the axis that we've talked about yesterday and in previous days. So we put those two together, and then for no particular reason, I do the willpower next, and then we leave the earth one, the G, the ZI, the YI till last. It's like that one that holds the middle, and the others operate around it. At the moment, that's the way I feel like it operates the best, but there isn't that Shang cycle kind of sequence operating there. And so that's what part 3 will be, the G and the Yi, and then there'll be lunch. And then after lunch, we look at combining the concepts of anxiety and Shen together and how you treat that, anger and Hun, worry and Po, fear and G, and pensiveness and Yi. And then, excuse me, we start to look at what happens when your Shen is excess, how you treat it, and then what 8 extraordinary vessel you can use, and a reason for why that is, and look at what that treatment could look like as well. The idea there is, again, it's giving you, I guess, 3 sides to a square or 3 corners to a square, and then it's on you essentially to create the 4th side or the 4th corner, meaning that I don't give you every single possible point combination. So I give you a place to start. I show you how the structure is done. I show you what the point combination can look like. And then it's essentially, if you feel like you want to use an 8 extraordinary vessel that's different to the one that's in the slides, you know the steps, you know the processes, you've got the information, and you just then would put that together yourself. Then through the rest of the afternoon, we combine the rest of the spirits with the 8 extraordinary vessels. It's really, really interesting. And then right at the end, we look at vessels to treat all of the 5 spirits. We look at vessels to treat the Hun Po axis. We look at vessels to treat the Shen and G axis. So the one up and down, the fire and water, and we look at the wood metal. So that in itself is, again, showing you how you can continue to expand out on concepts and look at using the 8 extras for more than even just one spirit, but multiple. As you're probably more than aware right now, the APCs, the Acupuncture Point Combinations, treatment principles, point prescriptions. So, very brief. The origins of the 5 spirits, or Wu Shen, Wu 5 Shen spirit, dates back to the first book written on Chinese medicine. We gave you an example of what that looked like back at the beginning of today. And then it continued on as a theme. So the classic difficulties, which came a little bit later, also was saying the viscera or yin organs store and are the abode of a person's spirit chi. The liver stores the Hun or ethereal soul. The lungs store the Po or corporeal soul. The heart stores the spirit or Shen. The spleen stores ideas and intelligence, Yi, and the kidneys store the essence and will, Qi. This is kind of looking at how how each spirit might look. The first line for each one is probably more its modern sense of how it looks. And the second line is going back to the original classics and what they had to say. So where we'd call it like the ethereal soul, heavenly soul, dream big soul, those original classics were referring to the horn as being more your nervous system, extrasensory perception, and so on as you look down. Shen's typically translated as spirit, soul, or mind. I know Giovanni was a big fan of calling Shen the mind. I always struggled with that idea as much as I like what Giovanni writes, or liked what I still like it, what he writes. That one I was not particularly sold on. I just like the word spirit. For me personally, even if it's not the best translation, it's one that I gravitate towards. In the classics, it referred to as mental and creative function, and so on as you look through. So it's giving you a bit of a look at a modern versus a more classical view of each of the spirits. Hidden at the core of traditional Chinese medicine are Wu Shen, or the five spirits, Shen, Hun, Yi, Po, and Ji, which are the resident deities of the Taoist psyche. They are our guides to the radiant landscape of the soul, the landscape that lies beyond the ordinary. I like that. It makes it sound like they're special. And they are. They're a special part within us. There are 5 different parts that are inherent in all of us. We all have them. They're linked to the 5 elements, and as such indicates that we have these 5 parts within us at all times because they are part of our spirit. So even if one of them is very low, there's always at least a bit of all 5 in you. Some might be really excess, some could be quite deficient, but you'll always have at least a bit of all 5. Hopefully they're all pretty balanced, but that's what we're going to look at now. You can't have one without the others, as they're universally connected through that 5-element cycle. Each of the 5 spirits are slightly different, and collectively they define who we are as a person. Theoretically, as I said, they should be equally balanced in the body, but that is rarely the case. There tends to be 1 or 2 that dominate over the others, with 1 or 2 hidden away and rarely accessed. And this occurs because of how we live our life and how that gears in with universal chi. Pretty straightforward, I think. As we live our daily lives, we tend to get pushed and pulled in different directions, and it's how we react to these factors that defines who we are. The way we live will invariably drive some of our 5 spirits into excess and some into deficiency. So again, all those things that happen in our lives impact us, whether it be dominant bosses or whatever, and that's what we're going to talk about in a minute. We tend to have favorites in terms of the 5 spirits, ones that seem to be available to us a lot more easily, and some that are more difficult and challenging to access. So that could come about through our own personality, or it could come about through, say, dominant, submissive relationship with family members, bosses, friends, acquaintances. They can activate and deactivate some of the 5 spirits. And this leads to an imbalance in our spirit or soul that negatively impacts on our future development. And so we have people in our lives that tweak different parts of us. And I guess it's on us to decide if it's in our best interest to have these people actively involved. Are they background noise we could do without, or are they actually front and center and creating problems? Maybe they're involved in our life and they're actually really lovely people, and it actually helps us feel good. All these different factors dictate how we feel, and some of these 5 spirits, when they fall off balance, it can really negatively impact on us, to the point of even things like suicidal tendencies, people that just give up. You know, they might not be, yeah, I probably don't need to go into that detail just yet, but it's giving you a sense of sort of what we're at here. So this feeds into these coming slides, which we'll talk about, and then I might track back to what was forming in my brain. So you have a tendency to favor one or two of the spirits at the expense of one or two others. And so some spirits will act like superhero capes, which can work well at times, but not all the time, because if you keep using one or two, in most instances, they're not always going to be the most appropriate. In the same way that we discussed emotions yesterday, and also in previous days that I've done, where every emotion is valued and warranted. It's just when the emotions have a tendency to be dominant when other emotions will be appropriate. You know, maybe you were supposed to, the most appropriate response was sadness, and you get angry. You know, this is not necessarily creating a balanced environment, because you're putting your anger superhero cape on instead of a sadness superhero cape. So some emotions get squashed away and others tend to dominate, and that creates an imbalance in the body. You know, you need to be able to express yourself at those relevant points. And the classic example is one I've used on about myself regularly, in that I have a Hun superhero cape. You know, it is the greatest superhero cape in the history of superhero capes. So I have no problems with accessing my Hun. I can dream up grand dreams. It's happening all the time. Literally, when I'm talking to you, I might say something and that tweaks an idea. And I talk about the idea that my dreams are like singular jigsaw puzzle pieces. And so these little jigsaw puzzle pieces form at any given point. You know, it was only a month ago I was doing a live workshop on the Gold Coast, which is about an hour from Brisbane, and it was on tuning forks. So my mum teaches tuning fork workshops, and then I help her and incorporate like Chinese medicine thinking into the workshops and show them how to, you know, use the forks on acupuncture points. And in that workshop, what had been forming for a while, little individual jigsaw puzzle pieces, started to click and connect. And then it all formed into a completed puzzle. And I got my concept of a thought cemetery, which I touched on at the beginning of yesterday, I think it was. Might have been the workshop a couple of days ago. But that's what happens. It's like it forms and little ideas, and it frames itself to some degree, and then it just appears. Like, here's little bits and pieces, and then it just forms as a kind of a completed idea. And so that's all fine for me. It's the taking the dreams and the ideas and making them the reality where everything gets completed. And, you know, that's where deadlines are very important for me. And I know that I stretch deadlines. Bless E Lotus, and David is giving it to us at the last minute again. The deadlines, if I didn't have them, the dreams don't become the reality all that often, because I'm too much in that, and I'm aware of that. And so consciously, if you're aware of something, you can do something about it if you so choose. And that's what happens with all of us. If you're sitting there going, which one's my superhero cape? You know, well, that's what we're going to look at, because the reality is, once I'm off this next crazy run, you know, I'm off to Europe and the UK for 5 weeks to teach my workshops and present at conferences. I need my Hun to still be very much front and center. I can tone it down, but it's going to be at a certain time. And for you, it might be something different. What are your superhero cape spirits? What are the ones that are perhaps falling away as a result. So creating that balance. And then once you've worked out which one it is, are you going to treat the deficient one to build it back up? Are you going to treat the excess one to tone it down? And if you do it in a way that, according to the point combinations in the slides, it's a way to settle it down, but don't strip it completely away. The last thing you want, in my example, is I don't want to lose access to that side of myself. But it would be more helpful at times to just bring it down a notch in order for the Po to be able to be more prominent, because when the horn is up, the axis drops the Po down. Now, in good news, I'm aware of all of this, and that allows me to know that right now, my horn will still be doing its thing, but it's more in the background. But you've probably seen as I'm teaching workshops, I might lean across and actually write something down on a piece of paper. And it's that kind of, I've just come up with an idea, let's get it down. But I'm in my Po, I'm in my action, I'm in my doing phase right now. But it does mean that your weaker spirits don't become as developed. And if you're not careful, you reach out to find someone that will fill that deficiency in us, rather than working out how to rebalance it yourself. So the issue there, again, if I use me as an example, if I don't action my dreams enough to completion, I could, if I was that way inclined, attach myself to a business partner, have a relationship, say, with a person, and they do the opposite for you. So I'll come up with the ideas and they action the ideas. And so then both those people feel valued, don't they? Because one did the task, one dreamt up the idea. And chances are the opposite track scenario is that the person that completes the tasks has trouble coming up with the ideas. So like the two perfect people merge, because they each do what the other one can't do. And that kind of can work, but you just have to be careful, because, well, the obvious one is that the reality is that in Chinese medicine, we should have been working on ensuring that we are able to do that ourselves, because otherwise you're not balanced. And then you even stop trying, because you know, oh, my partner will do it for me. And so then it's actually becoming lazy. You've still got your superhero cape, but your other one becomes really lazy. And then when you do put it on, it's not as effective as it was. Doesn't mean that you can't get the effect back, but it then becomes practice again. And you end up, if you work on it, you can get back to that point again where all five of them are fairly balanced. But, you know, that's something to consider. So you do have to watch that. The other opposite attract thing is an issue. It works well often in, say, a business setting where you're very clear on what each person is doing. It can work some degree in loving relationships as well. It can fall down at certain points, like say your horn/wood connects to Po/metal, and they're working well because the horn wood is coming up with the ideas, the Po metal is actioning the ideas. Well, if you as a couple go on a holiday together, this is an example of where what's working perfectly suddenly becomes a train wreck, because the wood and horn person is fly by the seat of your pants. I don't want to set a plan in place. I just want to go out and explore and see what happens. Whereas the Po metal person wants to have structure and planning, and we've got an itinerary. So they've got their little, piece of paper with what's on each day and where you're going to be. And they've worked out the conversion rate of the dollar. They've worked out some of how you pronounce certain words in the language. They know when the best time of the year is to travel to that country. They know if it's safe or not. Whereas the wood horn kind of go, I just feel like going to Belgium. Where are you going to go? I don't know. I've heard that Antwerp's quite nice. Oh, okay. Like they'll work it out. They don't know the conversion rate. They don't even know where they're going to stay. They don't know if they speak English over there. These are the things that are the differences between the two. And this creates a problem when they holiday together. It can work out well because they still recognize each other's value. The metal person, if they're okay, they can recognize that the wood's, a little bit looser and more relaxed. They can kind of let the foot off for a little bit and just try to chill. The wood feels the value from metal because they understand the difference between the monetary rate, and they can do a little bit of the language. And so there is still give and take. But what's infuriating is that one person wants a structure and the other person just wants to go out and see what's what. And so where opposites attract can work, at certain times it can turn into a big giant ball of crap as well, literally. So this table's more, I guess, the summary of each one, of which we're going to go through, obviously. So Hun is wood, which is more that adventurer type of archetype, and the emotions that it it has a love-hate relationship with is more the anger, stress, frustration, overwhelm, cyclical depression, etc. We're going to do Shen first. You can see it's more fire, magician. The emotions that the Shen person has a love-hate relationship with is anxiety, joy, mania, depression, shock. Any emotion essentially can exist and on through each of them, and we'll look at each of those. The 5 spirits are thought of as soulful psychic entities, each with its own nature, preferences, tendencies, needs, organic magnetism, emotional resonance, and psycho-spiritual function. So we'll do Shen spirit first. Do you think because I am poor, obscure, plain, and little, I am soulless and heartless? You think wrong. I have as much soul as you and full as much heart. So we're not looking at every concept related to the Shen. We did actually do that. We touched on it a few days ago, very briefly, and we also did a whole series on it with Lotus earlier in the year. So for the bigger picture, especially if you've got the gold pass, it would potentially be of interest to you if you like learning more, to go back and look at those. And then each of those ones actually had the added benefit of, we look at the Shen, but we looked at the fire element archetype in the same part of that workshop. And then it'd be sort of Hun and wood element archetype and so on. So this is kind of a full list of some of the most important aspects of when you're looking at the Shen. You can look at what organs it treats. Primarily, obviously, the Shen is related to fire, and the organs related to fire are heart, pericardium, small intestine, and Sanjiao. Triple energizer is the way we refer to it in the Australasia region. I'm not sure what you call the Sanjiao in your country. Maybe put it in the chat. What maybe your colleges or institutions call the Sanjiao, say in America or Canada or wherever you're from. We started calling it triple energizer because the WHO in Australasia decided that we needed to give it a label that was going to always be referred to as that, so to create that consistency, the regular theme. So let me see what people are saying here. Triple warmer, TE. Jennifer's got 1 out of 10 in the quiz. Love your honesty. Oh, have I got a typo there, have I? I'll have a look back, Christine. Triple heater, triple burner, triple warmer. Yeah, triple energizer, Sanjiao. Yeah, the triple burner and all those are very commonly referred to. That's when we didn't have a particular way of describing the Sanjiao. That's the way that we would often refer to it. Warmer, burner, heater. I guess in the wisdom of the academics within the Chinese medicine community, they were trying to find a term that maybe gave it less of a thing. Is if you call it a warmer or a burner or a heater, people think, oh, it must heat. And that's not wrong. But the Sanjiao is actually also a water regulator. So the Sanjiao regulates fire and water. So if all you're calling it is triple heater, you're losing the fact that it's also working on your water system in your body. And so it's, I guess, maybe what they're trying to do with triple energizer is not make it so obvious, not target one specific aspect of what the Sanjiao is, perhaps. Anyway, I'm not sure the reasons for why they chose that, but that's just what we've got to call it now in Australia. So it also looks at destiny, the Shen, self-esteem, the external layer of the self-esteem, the internal layer, and how the pericardium works with it. We touched on that a couple of days ago, so we're going to, if you weren't here a couple of days ago, I'm sorry, but you can go back and look at the information another time. We're going to have a quick look at Confucianism and the idea of targeting the heaven, earth, human aspect of yourself and how you could use the Shen to treat that, which is really cool because it's looking at not just treating the Shen, but actually treating that part of yourself that is that holistic, connecting all those aspects of yourself so that you are dreaming your ideas, you're taking them into your body, you're processing them, you're actioning them, and all that's feeling good. You give yourself a hug, you're feeling valued. You feel good in your own skin. There are excess deficiency treatments. We look at those later today. And then we look at one of those emotions later on today as well. But essentially, again, you could construct a treatment on any of those emotions, given the information that I provide you. So we're going to target these areas. A quick overview, we're going to look at those 4 organs and how they relate to emotions and Shen and a treatment for each of them. We look at destiny, Confucianism, we look at a balancing treatment before we move on to the next spirit. Obviously, acupuncture point combinations are included throughout. For those that have been at my workshops before, that is pretty obvious. If you're new, you get lots and lots of treatments. Rather than continually be putting references in all the time, which I still do anyway, the large chunk of the information is from those 5 textbooks. There are places elsewhere that I'm getting information, and if that is a unique location, it will get a reference as well. So Shen is fire element. Main organ is the heart. Obviously, the heart houses the Shen. Don't forget that there is that idea that the brain houses the Shen as well. So like this idea that the heart houses it, but the brain does. The heart looks after the brain. So they're kind of all interrelated and connected anyway. It's a mature yang spirit. So it's the most yang spirit we have. Hence, when you look at earth holding the middle, Shen is and fire is up top, and water and Qi is down the bottom. So it's the most yang, it's the highest. And then the other yang spirit is the Hun. The 2 yin spirits are the G, the ZHI, because it's the low one, and then the metal one, which is Po. It's funny because Po is more yin, but it has a very yang component, which is the action of your dreams. So each of the spirits, even though they're a preference towards being more yin or yang based, they actually have the opposite at times as well. So they have a yin and a yang component, essentially. And again, it's just that same idea that within everything, it will have its own yin and yang qualities, and then it will have other parts separate to it, which also act as a yin or yang partner to it. It's that classic Chinese medicine. There's always multiple connections and links throughout our medicine, which for me makes it really amazing. These are just a few of the Zhang Fu patterns, of which there'd be dozens. These are the main ones that can impact on the Shen. So heart fire blazing could create a Shen excess. Usually they jump on board together. So if one is excess, the other one is excess. Whereas if the heart is, say, deficient, then it often means that the Shen becomes deficient. What are those signs and symptoms? We'll look at that later on today. In a basic sense, the Shen is our memory, every aspect, short-term, long-term memory, even in terms of helping to study. Obviously, each of those are often split into their own organs, but collectively, the Shen overrides all of it. So if you're trying to study for an exam, for example, you would still probably look to help the spleen, to help with that aspect of thinking, but you could also consider treating the heart Shen as well to further assist. And again, if you come at something from a few different angles, that has the potential to be even more effective than just coming at it from one angle. It's the same when we look at point combinations. If all of them are just coming from one angle, they might not be quite as effective as if they're coming from multiple angles, but working together. You don't want them going off and doing random things. You want them to all be coming in together, working together as a team, even if they're coming from different angles. So they're coming in together rather than going off individually. So if someone's having trouble memorizing, then you could treat the spleen to help. You could also jump in and actually treat other organs so that they're coming at it collectively. The Shen is very much geared in with consciousness. So every aspect of consciousness, including semi-conscious, unconscious, feeding into things like sleep. Are you not sleeping? Are you oversleeping? How alert are you? Are you fully conscious in the moment, or are you vaguing in and out? I can't expect you to be with me for the whole 9 till 6 today. You're probably vague in and out from time to time. Part of the ways that I try to reduce that from happening is fling my arms around, as you see, all the time, change the tone of my voice, try to not just read the words out on the slide, so that there's that fact that you have to try to listen more because I'm not just going word for word. All those types of things. If I was live, I don't stand behind the lectern, I move around. So it's keeping movement in order to try to keep you engaged. But you probably will vague out from time to time, and then you'll come back and you go, oh, what did Davo just say? I lost what he just said. In good news, the slides are there for you to go back to if that does happen. You don't get in trouble for that. I get it. It's hard to stay completely with it all the time. So the Shen is really important for sleeping, to help to regulate sleeping. So it's every aspect, even down to things like dreaming and nightmares. It can be really helpful to settle that down. If you're struggling in terms of treating emotions and you are trying to target, say, maybe anger, and you're going, oh, it's very clear that it's liver, and you're treating the liver and you're just not kicking the goals like you'd be hoping for, maybe you still treat the liver, but maybe get the heart and the Shen involved as well. And then it governs all of the 5 spirits. So it overrides basically all of them. So it can help if you've got a bit of a a range of different spirits that are affected. You could go to each one individually, or you could potentially go back to the Shen and treat it. So the heart houses the Shen, as we know, and governs everything the Shen does. But does the heart physically house it? I believe it does. Is it housed in the brain? I believe that it is as well. Why can't it be in more than one place? The pericardium is involved as well. The Shen's kind of almost sort of everywhere, really. So it is sort of bleeding into lots of different parts of our body and then off our body. It's connecting us to universal chi, in my opinion. I think there's a lot more to it. We talked about the Captain America shield yesterday, and you don't let bad things in. Boing. Can you let lovely things in? Like, oh, you did a really good job today, Davo. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. You're letting it in. Oh, I didn't think I did a very good job. Boing. The heart and the Shen does have an aspect of it that sits out there too. So it's a collective of a large, if not all, aspects of us. It's like essentially an aspect of our chi, which of course is every square inch of us, and then also out into the universe. So there's a pinyin specific one, which we did touch on a few days ago. So, but obviously a lot of you were not here for that. This is what I love about this one, is it's looking at using pinyin names for points. So here, if you stick this in the chat as well, because I'm curious, when you did your studies, did you learn the English name for the points only, or were you asked to learn the pinyin names as well? So maybe if you had to learn the pinyin as well, maybe put pinyin. In Australia, when I went through in the early 90s, early to mid 90s, we learnt the English name. We had to learn the pinyin name, but we were never told what the pinyin name actually meant. So let me look at what you're saying here. English name only, no pinyin, both. So if you learnt both, say Jennifer, both, did you have to learn also what the pinyin meant? Just the English name was required. Only a few were pinyin. Pinyin not required. Were mentioned, yep. More emphasis on pinyin in the chi cultivation classes. Yeah, if you knew the pinyin, it was cool, but unnecessary. Yeah, I think, Erica, that's pretty bang on. We had to learn it, but it never stuck because it was a pointless language that we didn't understand. You know, you'd be told that gallbladder 13 was Ben Shen, so you learned gallbladder 13 Ben Shen, gallbladder 13 Ben Shen. You got it to stick, but you didn't know what Ben Shen meant. I think if you knew that gallbladder 13 was Ben Shen and that Ben was root and Shen was spirit, maybe you're more of a chance of remembering the pinyin in future. It's quite helpful to know them. So thank you for sharing that with the group. I appreciate it. So for me, and that the other issue with that was, it was things like not even knowing where to split. So spleen 6 was Sun Yin Jiao, and we just learned spleen 6, Sun Yin Jiao all as one big long word. And that further confuses, because if you don't know any different, you just think that's one word. But it isn't. It's 3 words all squashed into one word. So once you can understand where you split them, then you can work out, oh, San is 3, Yin is Yin, and Jiao is like intersector. 3 Yin intersector. What does that mean? Oh, spleen 6 connects spleen, liver, kidney channel. There's value there. So what we've done here is done pinyin specific for Shen. It's sensibly scattered. We've got some on the head, on the hairline, inside the hairline, we've got trunk, on the front, trunk on the back. Bladder 44 and do 11 are below T5. One is below T5 and the other one is below T5, 3 sun lateral. And then heart 7, which in my opinion is the best Shen point we have. When you treat heart 7, here's another quick question if you want to put this in the chat. I don't know how clear this is. So when you treat heart 7, do you treat by needling there, or do you come out to the side and kind of go back under? So what I teach is coming in, is that clear? As more that, I guess, to the edge of the pisiform bone. Some lecturers, and you might have been taught this, you come and roll over and come in from this angle, almost coming from like the small intestine channel. I hadn't really seen that. We were always taught to needle it in that traditional, I guess, location. But more recently at college, I'm noticing more and more clinic supervisors allowing the students to come from the other angle. Let me see what people are saying. Yep, we can see, lovely. I was taught both ways. Side is easier to access. Come from the side mostly. Look, again, depends on what other needles are around. Sure. Traditional location, both. Position, straight on. Yeah. I think some people have started coming from the side because they've found it to be easier to access when they've got other needles in. I think maybe they've also found that they don't hurt the patient as much. But that heart 7 shouldn't really hurt because you are, it's not like you're being given acupuncture points that are deliberately being needled into blood vessels or nerves. But some people get a bit gun shy, and so maybe they bail out and come from the side because they've found that it hurts less from there. I haven't really seen enough of it to know, but thank you for sharing. For me, I go with that standard location. But I've had some burners. When I was in student clinic going every week, like I did for that sort of 4 years, I got some people doing heart 7 and they really stuffed it up. And gee whiz, it hurts when they get it wrong. It's like pericardium 6 when they get it wrong. It burns all the way up into your palm and up to the middle finger, but not like just a cheese shot where you go, oh no, it's okay now, but just keeps burning. That can happen with heart 7, as I imagine some of you have found. So that's 12 needles all up. You can't get to all of them at the same time necessarily. If I was going to do this treatment, this would be a situation where I would flip them partway through. Maybe I would do the majority of it face up, let them cook for 20, 30 minutes, take the needles out, flip them over, needle, do 11, bladder 44, give them a quick stimulation, maybe a couple of minutes, take the needles out, they get up and off they go. So no long-term, not leaving the back ones in for another sort of 10, 20 minutes. Probably how I would do that. What about the Shinbao pericardium? Again, we've touched on this over the last, basically the last 4 days. It's heart's embrace, heart's bodyguard, heart shield, heart's wrapping, court jester. So it's the physical protector around the heart like a bodyguard. It's the court jester, so it entertains the heart to feel joy. And joy is that contentment, harmony, balance, peace, not the manic. Must have joy, must stay happy. It's the kind of this is good, life's good, like that type of thing. That's what you're kind of aiming for. There's no reason why you can't get a bit of a manic shot of joy from time to time. There's a bit of an adrenaline hit and an endorphin hit, a dopamine hit, etc. But you're not trying to be in that all the time because it's too yang and you can't sustain it. So I think it's a very undervalued organ. It's very good at assisting the heart Shen. It protects the heart. It makes the heart feel joy, as I said. So this is a combination that we did have, I think, in either yesterday's slide or a couple of days ago. You got the crown and third eye combination to treat the brain Shen. You've got the three that I really like, the Ren 14, 15, 17 triple. So you've got the heart being treated, the pericardium being treated, and what I call the unofficial front move of the heart Shen, Ren 15. So the three of them together are a real power pack. Because we're treating the pericardium, then the back shoe point of the pericardium in this case probably makes more sense, which is bladder 14, and the outer bladder point, bladder 43. So it's another 1.5 slit out. We got the host-guest combination, which we do a little bit of, I think, today from memory. So again, the host is the host of the disease, gets the yuan source point, and then the guest is the yin or yang partner of it. It does the law connecting point. So in this case, the host of the Shen is the pericardium, so it gets the yuan source point, and then its yang partner is the sanjiao, so it gets the law connecting point. So collectively, you've got pericardium 7 and sanjiao 5. And then the pericardium and liver are shui yin partners, and the pericardium is fire. So if you do the fire point on the liver channel, you're doing essentially the pericardium point on its yin part of the liver. And that's 15 needles all up. What about small intestine? Often it's this perplexing relationship with the heart. Like, is there really a good connection there? Because when you think about spleen and stomach, there's a really solid, obvious connection. Liver and gallbladder, another really obvious, solid connection. Kidney and urinary bladder, again, but some are much less obvious. So how does the heart and the Shen and the small intestine, how do they connect in terms of their relationship? So obviously they're both part of fire, so that's one connection. They both have a relationship with Shen. They are yin and yang partners, as I said. But let's look at the Shen relationship. The small intestine breaks down pure and clean and impure and dirty. That's a physical thing they do. They break down liquids and solids into pure and impure. But they also do it in they've got the spiritual and the physical. So this is more the spiritual aspect of the organ. So it's doing the breaking down pure and impure thinking, both about yourself. So this potentially is an organ that can help your sense of self. And I was at a workshop earlier in the year, and the presenter actually said that small intestine is quite a common organ for him to diagnose in patients with depression. And at the time, I kind of went, that's a bit odd. And then during the break, I chatted to a couple of other people that were attendees like me, and I was sort of saying, what are your thoughts on that? And we nutted it out. And in the end, it actually does make sense. Not that I've treated dozens and dozens and dozens of depression patients, and either I misdiagnosed or I just didn't get anyone, but I've never had a small intestine diagnosis for depression. For those that have treated depression before, if you put in the chat whether you've ever diagnosed someone with small intestine depression, please. So even though I haven't, and I've treated a bunch of patients with depression, it actually does make sense. If you're having problems with your opinion about yourself, maybe you've got impure, dirty thinking about yourself, you're letting that inner critic really give you grief, then maybe the small intestine is responsible. Maybe I've had patients that I've diagnosed plenty of heart-based depression. Maybe some of them had heart and small intestine. I can't think of anyone offhand, but this is something that's quite interesting, that there's this possibility. There's also this idea of pure and impure thinking about others. And so, of course, this can lead to all sorts of drama-filled situations that might be even all the way up to psychosis. Having an impure thinking about the greater population. I'm going to take down everyone. They're all bad humans. Are we all bad? Well, no, we're not. But they're getting the impure thinking. Helps to distinguish the difference, so you understand that and you recognize the opposites. It separates and recognizes the difference between right and wrong, and this can have a profound effect on how you understand yourself, plus also yourself and your environment, how you understand others. So how might we treat this? Well, we've got a window of sky or window of heaven point up there on the small intestine channel, and it allows us to see the beauty within. So it's helping that pure and impure thinking in ourselves and also without. So the pure and impure thinking about other people, the greater population. So it's, boom, what better point could you consider using for small intestine and Shen-based conditions? We're going to round it out. It's not the only point you'd use. We've got front move point for small intestine. Plus, it also, Ren 4 is a Shen calming point anyway. I think that if you're going to use the small intestine, why not use its yin partner, the heart? And that's what we're doing there. We've got front, so that's the front move of both the small intestine and heart. And you can see I'm doing this again where I love my Ren channel. So Ren 4 and Ren 14. I'm not doing the opening a couple points and opening all of the Ren, but I still have consistent Ren points. The fire element kidney spirit gate point. Small intestine 11 helps our mental focus and clarity. Back shu point of the heart. Could you do the back shu point of the small intestine? Sure, that one. Small intestine 27. Xiao Chang Shu, 27, I think it is. I think, again, the heart is so important with Shen-based conditions. We've already got some small intestine points. I think bladder 15 for me would be preferable there. Small intestine 5 is fire and fire. It also treats the Shen. Small intestine 7 is a good point to treat the small intestine, but it also is really good for heart Shen. It's the law connecting point. So it's going to treat the heart and the Shen, but it's also a small intestine point, so it treats the small intestine. And then bladder 60 is the fire point, and it's the Tai Yang partner of the small intestine. And bladder 60 also treats the Shen. So we're still getting lots of these really good connections. You've got small intestine points on the arms with a small intestine point on your back and also on your neck. You've got a bladder point down on your foot with a bladder point on your back. You've got kidney and urinary bladder connecting. You've got heart and small intestine connecting. Sensible scattering of needles. Again, we don't need to spend as much time on each of the point combinations, but it's every now and then it's just reminding you that there's a lot more connections there than maybe at first glance that you're aware of. Then the Sanjiao is a part of the fire element, as you know. It's the yang part of the pericardium. So how's its relationship with the Shen? Well, via the heart fire, it assists with regulating emotions, in particular via relationship issues. So that's the Giovanni comment. So you could consider treating the Sanjiao if the person's got a heart fire imbalance affecting their emotions, potentially affecting their relationship. Via the pericardium, yin, it acts as further support. So it's just that, again, yin and yang partnership helping multiple things, including the Shen. And then the Sanjiao and the gallbladder are Xiao Yang partners. And what's the gallbladder got issues with? Sometimes stress, frustration, overwhelm, anger, cyclical depression. So it can help with that relationship and also help with decision making. So in this instance, we're looking at things like gallbladder 9, gallbladder 13, then we've got a gallbladder 40 down on the foot. Gallbladder is Xiao Yang partner to Sanjiao. Plus, we're trying to choose ones that are better, have better relationships to the Sanjiao. Then we've got our 3 beauties again, Ren 14, 15, 17. Further connecting the fire element of which the Sanjiao is part of. The Sanjiao is the host of the disease. In this case, not so much a disease, but perhaps a dis-ease in the Shen. So it gets the Yuan source point, Sanjiao 4, with its law connecting point on its yin partner, which is pericardium 6. And pericardium 6 treats the Shen as well. And then a point up on the neck again, part of that sort of windows of the sky. If they're not all of the points on the neck aren't all windows of the sky, but they often have similar functions. Sanjiao 16 lifts the heart Shen, lifts the Hun, and has an effect on those neck points. They're very good at regulating the energy above and below themselves. So connecting to the Hun, dreaming your grandest dreams, bringing it down into the body, connecting it with the Shen to create that momentum and that movement where we action the dreams. So there's all these multiple little connections happening there. We will have a break soon. So Shen and other organs, this is really not something I want to spend a lot of time on. You can see the table. This is a bit of a snapshot. So you're basically looking at how the Shen can be involved. So really in this instance, what you do is you go, okay, well, I've got a patient that's coming in. Let's go down to, say, kidneys, and they've got panic attacks and they've got phobias. That's what they want treatment for. So that would be a kidney-based diagnosis often, but don't discount the fact that the Shen and possibly the heart might also be involved. So it's the idea that you look at the list and you go, okay, phobias and panic attacks are probably kidneys more than any other organ, but let's not discount heart and Shen. Anger is often liver. Let's not discount heart and Shen. In fact, those 3 angry men that I saw a few years ago that all came in within a month of each other, 2 of them were a liver diagnosis. One was liver yang rising, one was liver fire blazing, the other one was liver and heart fire blazing. So the heart and Shen were involved in one of those diagnoses. So that's what you're kind of looking at. Is this table's really good to have your obvious organs involved, but not ever forgetting that the heart and the Shen can also be involved. That's a little summary from a page in my book, just your normal 7 emotions with a few extras. What are the likely organs and spirits? Into destiny, the Shen gives the orders that precipitate each human life. But the Shen also gives us a heavenly mandate, our individual destiny. So if you believe in destiny, then the Shen and the heart would be used there. So let's assume, for the sake of this workshop, that you're living the life you're meant to live. Your life has been planned out for you, and this is your destiny. This destiny is therefore housed in the heart, in the Shen, in the brain, in the Shen. So if you felt like maybe you'd lost your way, or you feel like you have no point to life, or you don't understand why you're here, maybe you could be treated to remind you of your true path, or Tao, perhaps. So, maybe you had no point to life. There should be more to life. You weren't, you're not living the life you're meant to, whatever that might look like. There's no reason for living. It's an interesting hypothetical. So let's look. I can't say that I've ever done a treatment exactly like the one on the next slide. I've done variations on it. But this is looking at how you could treat someone for their Shen for a situation where they felt like they wanted a reconnect to that destiny, why I'm really here. I know for the first 19 years of my life, this was an ongoing theme for me. You know, why am I here? I did poorly at school. I struggled to make friends. I went to 9 different schools in 13 years. I was bullied all the time. I struggled to have relationships, and it was all a really unenjoyable time, you know, in amongst all these other things that went wrong. And I questioned what my point to existence was. And acupuncture got me back to the sense of getting an idea about who I was and who I wanted to be. And it was through getting acupuncture every week, and it was from studying to be an acupuncturist. I found my thing. I found my destiny. And this is something that some people really struggle with. And I think that it was a collective of getting regular treatment at the student clinic and finding something that I enjoyed and liked. And so maybe it's a collective of things, but this could be one approach. So we're looking at doing a range of things, but we're still looking for connections. So we've got points that might be used that are Shen-based, like gallbladder 13, heart 7, bladder 44, do 11. So you're getting those Shen points again. I'm giving you a choice. You could choose points like Ren 1, 4, 5, 6. I don't use Ren 1. It doesn't mean that you don't, but just choosing some. The value of Ren 1 is that what we talked about yesterday. It's the most direct access point back to your original you, back to your Dantian. And at the point of your conception, that's where essentially your destiny is housed. But again, it's in a really inconvenient location, so you may not use it. If not, you've got other really good ones. Ren 4, Ren 5, Ren 6. We've got our kidney spirit gate point, the front move point of the pericardium. You've got that kidney 24, heart 4 combo we touched on yesterday, the Ling Shu, the Ling Dao, helping you get a better sense of who you are, what you want to be, dumping the old rubbish to allow better stuff to come in. Old rubbish thinking, old rubbish patterning. So you can see these ideas of why these points are connected. And then Confucianism and our break. He, yes, it is he. It's sexist philosophy. He, the gentleman is the perfect person. The Junzi, the Junzi, the perfect person, is not governed by the attractions and repulsions of the senses. It's not all about desires. So he can engage in moral reflection. Mencius speaks of the heart as the organ of thought and of its having the role of a kind of reflective conscience which should govern one's life. And they both had important things to say about the heart, especially Mencius. Mencius believes that you're born good and this goodness is housed in the heart. Again, we talked about that yesterday. So we could treat the heart Shen to stimulate our inherent goodness. The goodness is made up of 4 parts: the heart of compassion and pity, the heart of shame, the heart of courtesy and modesty, and the heart of right and wrong. Interestingly, we have the 4 chambers in the heart. And even though there's more than 4 Confucian precepts, they linked to a different precept. The precepts, if you did those 4 well, you would have a heart that was compassionate and showed pity. You had a heart that understood shame. You had a heart that on and on. And then collectively, those 4 become a stronger unit. In and amongst that, the other littler versions of Confucian precepts will grab onto that, and you ultimately become Junzi, the perfect person. So Mencius suggested that when a person loses their heart, they may lose their sense of purpose. destiny and their connection to Tian or heaven. So you fill your space with desires that are coming from D or earthly, worldly, sensory attraction. You get caught in the materialistic world. So what needs to happen is we need to actually get ourselves re-engaged into not just the material world, but we're looking at being, as I said, more holistic. So we're looking at TND, Ren, heaven, earth, human. So I suggest that if one were to stimulate the heart Shen, we will recognize this critical error and be drawn back into our inherent goodness, a better understanding of our destiny, where we're meant to be, reconnecting to the heavenly aspect of us, which is our Shen, but also our Hun. It's connecting to the earth, the grounded part where the Po actions our dreams, and connecting, which is the D, and then the Ren is the human aspect of us. So it recognizes the Shen, again, which is everywhere, the Yi and the Ji. So we're constructing and looking to see if our dreams should be reality. And it's also, the Ren is giving ourselves a hug, because the three of them, I remember yesterday, hug heaven, heavenly part of ourselves, hug the earthly part of ourselves, and hug the ego part of ourselves, our self-esteem. So could we treat this? It's treating the Shen, it's treating Tian, D, and Ren. And it was that combination this was actually a few days ago, the Jade, the perfectly imperfect combo. So I'll show you what that one is if you weren't here a few days ago. So we have bladder 9 at the back of the head. We have Ren 18 and Ren 21. So bladder 9, Ren 18, Ren 21. They are the Jade or perfectly imperfect acupuncture point combination. And they are very, very good for helping your sense of self-esteem, helping you recognize, as I said, if there is such a thing as destiny, potentially why you're here, and reconnect you to the heavenly part of yourself, the earthly part of yourself, and the human part of yourself, and understanding that you don't need to be perfect. And in fact, if you're not perfect, then you're imperfectly perfect, like the jade stones are. You know, they've often got those, they've got little cracks, they've got little chunks out of them, they've got the streaks through them. And it's the fact that it's not just that opaque kind of green, but there's the bits in it that make it the perfect stone or crystal, because it's imperfectly perfect. And that's what the human race should embrace. So what have we got here? We've got highest points on the body to connect to Tian. We've got the lowest points on the body to connect to Earth. We've got the spleen 21, which gives us the big hug, the Da Bao, the great embrace. It hugs ourselves in all three, but particularly ourselves. We've got the perfectly imperfect combo. We've got stomach 9, which we talked about yesterday, Ren Ying, which is humans' prognosis, but it's also, if you look down the bottom, Tian Wu Hui, heavenly 5 meetings, treats all of your 5 spirits. And what have we missed? Oh, kidney 1 was the other one. It's Yong Chuan, but it has another name, which is Di Chong, which is earth rushing or earth surging. And again, it's the lowest point on the body. It's connected directly to the earth. So its alternate name actually is quite interesting in terms of giving the point a bit of extra value in terms of its understanding of where it's located and what it's treating. So that earthly part connecting you down into your Po. So all up, really fascinating point combination. Again, when I look at this, I don't think I've ever treated anyone with exactly this combination, partly because I don't often flip people, but just it looks fascinating. And I'm really intrigued to do something like this the next time I have a patient where this would be suitable. Yeah, not sure what your thoughts are on that, but it looks, I just think it's a rock star looking combination, and what the value that can do for someone in terms of helping them understand who they are, feel better in themselves, reconnect to, they're having trouble dreaming up their grandest dreams, having trouble bringing them down into their body, having trouble deciding if those dreams should be reality, having trouble grounding yourself into action and performing those dreams. Any variation of that, potentially we've got a treatment here. If you just want a nice Shen regulating treatment, this might be where you would go. So you could use Do 20 Yin Tang, the crown and third eye combo. I know that not all of you like Do 20, and so Do 24 maybe is your replacement. It's up to you. I mean, you could even add in Do 24 and Do 20 and Yin Tang. That's a pretty strong head treatment. I mean, I don't have a problem doing it lower down for the Ren 14, 15, 17. I guess it's what your patient sort of resonates towards, what they like. Some people love points up on their head, so they wouldn't mind if you did a few extra. I guess you're looking at it as being, are they excess deficient? This is a regulating treatment. So in theory, it will raise the energy up to produce more Shen if you're deficient. If your Shen is excess and it's too much up in the head and higher up in the chest, it will look to just settle it down. And it's got all your usual suspects: front moves, back shoes, yuan sources. Spleen 6 is my favorite point on the legs for Shen. So again, there's no surprise weights there. So let's look at your chat quickly, and then we'll have a short break, see if there's anything here. Ren 1 is fabulous for acute prostatitis combined with prostate on the ear. Yeah, look, I'm not doubting what you're saying, Jennifer. It's actually such a profoundly amazing point, which would be used probably very regularly if it wasn't where it was. But again, maybe there's hang-ups in some countries that don't have the same hang-ups elsewhere. I'd have to be very careful being a male in this instance, attempting Ren 1 on, say, a female patient for obvious reasons. And then are many male patients really going to want another man fiddling around down there as well? There's all these dynamics that could come across as being inappropriately received. Have seen Ren 1 moxed, yeah. For erectile dysfunction, use a box over the knees up, a blanket draped up. Yeah. Yeah, you can. Moxa Ren 1 is yeah. Gar moxa on Ren 1 is a treatment, classical treatment for drowning. It's yeah, how does that work? You know, it's not like the lifesavers at beaches have moxa sticks and then they pull someone out of the surf and they drop their budgie smugglers and everyone get out of the way and they light a moxa stick and scar moxa Ren 1. But you could potentially get quite a dramatic effect there. So it's a classical thing. You light up a moxa stick and then you actually put it straight on the skin at Ren 1. And so obviously that's quite a shock, but that's potentially something that will prompt the person. I mean, that would be something that could also be used for someone that's lost consciousness or maybe had a heart attack and they're unconscious, to get them back. I mean, it's, you know, it's very shocking, but it's not something. It might be Chinese medicine first aid, but it's not Western medicine first aid. I use Do 20, Do 24 and Yin Tang together all the time. Yeah. So it's what patients like, and it's trying these things out. I just don't use that many if a patient doesn't like that many up in their head. they're usually pretty good at recognizing what's a bit too much. But for some people, it's really calming and relaxing. But for some people, it's a bit too jazzy. It gets them a bit agitated. So just trying out what seems to work for your different patients. Okay, so we are 10:32. So if we could be back at 10:33, 10:45 to continue again. So about 12 or so minutes. So go and have a quick break and we'll see you again in 12 minutes. Thanks. You don't have to sign out.
Recording stopped.